The best place to start is probably just an overdrive pedal with a simple clean boost in front of it. And for this, we're using the overdrive pedal as our core sound. So I recommend using something with a fairly flat frequency response, something with a very sort of open and natural sound. A lot of you might know I like the OD-3 for this. And what we're going to do is put the Electro Harmonix LPB1 into the OD-3, and it's going to increase the input that's going into the OD-3. So it's not changing the inherent sound of the overdrive or anything. It's very similar to just turning the drive control up on the OD-3. A nice way to think of it would be as giving the OD-3 two modes. A lower gain mode, and then with the clean boost on, it's a higher gain mode. It doesn't change the inherent sound of your overdrive, which is your core tone. In my mind, there's two types of overdrive pedals. Ones which are fairly flat in their frequency response, that are kind of natural and amp-like, and ones that have a mid-hump, you know, they're focused in the mid-frequencies, like the Ibanez Tube Screamer. Another good one is the Boss SD1 Super Overdrive as well, that has this sound. A really good combination of having two overdrives at the same time is to have one of each. And for this, I'll put the Tube Screamer into the OD-3, and compared to the clean boost that we were using before, it's not boosting the overall frequency spectrum of the OD-3 now, it's more boosting the mids, so you're much less likely to get a boomy bass and a shrill high end on your boosted sound now. It's going to help you poke out in the mix really easily. And the other thing it's doing is adding its own character of overdrive to the mix as well. So that's going to cascade together with the overdrive sound of the OD-3, which is really nice. You get a more complex saturation. Now let's add the clean boost back into the mix, but this time I'm going to put it at the end of the signal chain, and this way it's just going to boost the overall volume of the sound. Make sure you have plenty of clean headroom on your amp for this, and using a clean boost this way means that not all your boosted like lead tones have to be heavily overdriven. You can take a solo or just make your part louder while still using a lightly overdriven sound. It's a really great way to bring a wider range of tones to the gig. High gain distortion pedals plugged directly into a clean amp can sound kind of unnatural, and don't get me wrong, that more unnatural sort of processed distortion sound certainly has its place in some styles. So if you're playing, you know, punk or something like that, then that aggressive sort of harsh and abrasive distortion sound can work really well. But if you want a more natural amp type distortion, then running an overdrive pedal, a natural amp type overdrive pedal like the OD-3 after your distortions is a great way to just round off those harsh edges of distortion pedals that often happens if you plug them straight into a clean amp. It just takes off the fizzy high end that can sound sort of piercing, and it just tightens up the low end that can be loose and woolly, you know, just rounds off those edges, makes it sound a lot more like a natural amp type distortion. Now we'll get on on to fuzz, but remember, if you're finding this video useful, think about liking the video or maybe subscribing to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. So with fuzz, it's a very similar situation to what we were talking about with distortion, except the change in tone is even more drastic now, because a lot of classic fuzz pedals like the big Muff, the fuzz face, they have this mid scoop to the sound. So with that sound going through a clean amp, it's really easy for it to sound kind of hollow in a busy mix. It's easy to get lost in a mix with that sort of sound. So using a more natural amp type overdrive pedal like the OD-3 after your fuzzes is a really great way to just reintroduce some mids to the sound. Think of Jimi Hendrix's fuzz face through his overdriven Marshall stacks. It's more towards that sort of sound. Want to revoice your fuzz pedal sound, then you could even put a more mid-focused overdrive pedal after your fuzz pedal. This is really cool as well. I think David Gilmour might run his fuzzes like this.